savory, and I can do some of the spices and stuff. Like I'll do, red salsa, green salsa, whatever, types of stuff depending on the dish and that sort of thing. But like the cilantro overpowers, like I want to taste the cheese. Like why else is the cheese there, if we're not tasting it? So what a weird place to cut in, but you're welcome. Yeah. Well, at least we led with that instead of hose water. So,
And that was a conversation of while we weren't recording.
Right? Welcome to that show. We said the thing in the words of the stuff. Yep. You might be wondering where the hell everybody else is. We are too, but no,
emergency birthday party, apparently, because it was forgotten about.
Yeah. Or somebody licked a roommate. Somebody had an emergency birthday party because those don't come around every year on the same day. They're very sneaky like that. I don't remember EG's excuse.
I think he had to visit family and may or may not have been able to break away because family doesn't matter. Just come on, podcasts are what matter.
Yeah.
So we have no topic and barely any people. We're going to find an argument at some point, and so far it's either been Marvel or food.
Yeah. So the thing about Marvel movies is that they remind the director of hose water. That's really where that's what the overall pre-show conversation, circled back to. Like, there's nothing wrong with hose water, but not everybody likes it. So.
It has a very distinct flavor, and sometimes I would prefer something else.
Yeah.
Although I am still truly confused as to why I didn't enjoy Civil War. Maybe there was just too much flavorings of hose water that was like the jokes were still just too much for me or something, and I couldn't get into the trauma of what's supposed to be happening. Maybe it's because I didn't see so many of the other movies. If I don't care who these people are.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. One of the more emotionally impacting scenes is War Machine getting zapped, and then you're like, who the fuck's this guy? And whatever, then that's not going to help. So
yeah, maybe there was too many. Like, I didn't see Winter Soldier. I didn't see Ultron. Who the fuck was War Machine in the first place? Maybe I remember. Maybe I don't. Maybe just not by name.
So he was the dude cast as another dude who got replaced by Don Cheadle.
Okay, Don Cheadle was fun. It's just like, was he him? Was that him? Because then there was like.
So hold on, I can make this more convoluted. So Donald Duck. No, I'm sorry. Don Cheadle voices Donald Duck in like 2 or 3 episodes of the new DuckTales. So that's where I was going with that. But yeah, it's hilarious as shit because now every time like I see Don Cheadle, I'm like, look, babe, it's Donald Duck, So, but
he's still Captain Planet from a long time ago too.
Oh no, you would have to reference that, wouldn't you?
That was hilarious.
Tree. All right. Yeah, no, but I mean, I liked him in a bunch of stuff, and I think he was a great contrast with, Tony Stark and shit. I mean, even talking about, so like we're bleeding topics a little bit because what we were supposed to talk about today was superhero morality, right?
But we're going to try to save some of that conversation for next time.
Right, but just to put this primer out there, the War Machine versus Iron Man talk is the exact same talk as Captain America versus Iron Man, but Iron Man's flipped sides. Because absolutely every time the government's trying to get at that technology because it's weapons tech, right? And so to the point where, War Machine, why can't I remember the character name right now, but Don Cheadle's character basically literally steals the Iron Man suit for the government and that sort of thing, and Tony Stark doesn't want the government to have his weapons tech because he's seen what that what his weapons are doing to the world and that sort of thing.
So why did he flip?
But because he's got a guilty conscience. Now, I personally think that he was heavily influenced still by what Scarlet Witch did to him in Ultron. So, continuity. And yes, thank you, Rhodey. God, I can't believe I totally blanked on that. But I personally think that Scarlet Witch laying the whammy on him in Age of Ultron was a big part of his grief. But then, he got talked to after his MIT speech, in Civil War, I think. And, they were like, here's my little boy. He got crushed by a rock from a falling, exploding island, and it's all your fault. And it's like, I mean, this one time kind of mostly was, his fault, but, it still kind of harkens back to the whole, how much are the heroes actually responsible for the bad shit that happens around them, and that they're trying to stop and whatnot. So
he's just trying to offload his guilt to other people.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but like, I mean, it becomes a huge chunk of Iron Man's MCU identity, if nothing else. Like, I don't have necessarily a depth of knowledge in the comics to say how much this is lifted directly from there, but it's like, so we're taking the chicken and the egg thing, right? Iron Man didn't exist until he almost got murdered by his own weapons, and he got held hostage in a cave to redesign and rebuild some of those weapons, right? So if we're talking chicken and the egg, like Iron Man, the suit of armor and the superhero persona literally exists to stop bad business dealings from Tony Stark's business partner, Obadiah Stane. For some reason, I can remember his name, but not fucking Rhodey. Anyway, so like that's chicken and the egg, right? He's literally trying to stop, double dealing, selling weapons to terrorists, that sort of thing. That's why Iron Man exists. And then like, he's causality starts, right? Then we go down the chain and people try to mimic what he's doing and beat him at his own game. And then it escalates to like dropping giant islands on people. But it's like, yes, collateral damage happens and is a bad thing, but were they supposed to stay home that day? Like that's the argument, right? Like, yes, that all of that shit was terrible and reparations or weregild or whatever we want to call it should be made, but should he have stayed home? And like 6 billion people should have died instead of 2,000, like that's where trolley problem comes in. That's where superhero morality comes in, like there's other things to do. So anyway, that's a primer for the conversation with
that
additional
we've been trying to have for a month.
Additional examples that the director's still not hot on because they involve movies she didn't see and doesn't like. And
I tried to watch Ultron and I got so bored halfway through, I just turned it off.
Why? What's boring about Ultron?
I really didn't care about the people. I didn't like Ultron as an antagonist because he was also doing the too sassy thing, and it focused a lot on the Hawkeye guys. I didn't care about him, and so it's just like there's nothing
they had
entertaining
to redeem
about
Hawkeye's
it.
character a little bit. They had to show you like why he was a hero and stuff. So they kind of made him the Batman of the group in a way,
sure.
Right? Where it's just like,
and
I have no powers.
Like him and his family and his kids, and it's just like, okay. And not, I wish I could explain it. I wish I could identify it.
I mean, me too, because then we'd argue.
It just didn't grab me in the way that those things should. It had those things that I should like, but the formula did not work on me.
Right.
And some of it, at least with Ultron, I could identify it was still doing the too sassy thing, Whedonisms.
Yes. Thank you very much for asking that question so I can spend the next 5 minutes telling you my entire evil plan. Come on. Like, if that's not one of the best lines in like the whole series, I don't know. But have you tried being more funny? Maybe that's your problem. Like, you're just not funny enough to appreciate. Like, I mean,
I know I'm funny. I appreciate it, but funny.
Yeah. It all goes back to the same thing, which unfortunately has been, really tainted for me lately, which is Joss Whedon's style of humor, right? You never really liked Joss Whedon's style of humor.
Right. So, and even that is hard for me to describe. Why don't I like Joss Whedon when it's so close to like Butcher, and I enjoy Dresden's humor with Butcher, and yet I don't like Whedon's, and I can't always pinpoint why. Sometimes I think is that when Dresden is making a joke about himself, he's making a joke about himself. He's not necessarily one-upping someone else. And I think that Whedon does that too much. The person who's telling the joke is, I'm better than you, and here's why. And that rubs me too much the wrong way sometimes.
So if that were true, and if we had examples of that sort of thing, I could see that and I would agree with you. But like, none of the examples that come to mind feel particularly one-uppy, unless it's just like, that was funny, but you know what else is funny, like, because so again, Age of Ultron, but this literally happens in like the first like 15 minutes wherever it is, but it's
we
like
can
the
try
whole
to see if I remember it.
well, but it's the whole like language bit, right? With the Captain America swears, like, we got to take these bastards down or whatever he says, right? It's just it just like slips through the language. And then, like 5 minutes later, Iron Man's like, wait, is no one going to deal with the fact that, Captain America just said language? Or yeah, it was somebody else swore, and then Captain America's like, language, so. But I'm just saying that was humorous to me and wasn't one-uppy, right? It was just calling out the fact that Captain America is a Boy Scout, or yeah, I don't know. So
if you want an example of when I thought it was being too sassy for its own good, the one that hurt me the most is from the original Avengers.
Okay.
Thor and Loki are arguing in a forest, and Thor says something of like, "I'm gonna tell you something or other, whatever."
Yeah,
and then,
you listen here.
And then something hits him, and he goes flying away, and Loki just says, "I'm listening," and it's just
I'm pretty sure that something was Iron Man hits him, but
I don't fully remember. I just remember going like, even Loki is a character I should like, and I hated it that moment because it was just too much. It was like, I'm so much better. I'm the witty in the moment, and just it never felt right. It just couldn't.
Yeah, I don't
do it.
I don't see. I mean, Loki is the right kind of smarmy character to have that air of superiority, but I don't see that in that moment. But yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? That whole fight is like a quip a minute, right? Like, they're dueling intellectually as much as anything. It's like
too much.
Shakespeare in the park, and I'm going to put the hammer down. And
do any of them ever stumble in their delivery ever?
They're superheroes. It's one of their superpowers.
Maybe that's just something. Maybe I don't like superheroes.
I
like damaged people.
I've been waiting to have this argument for like 6 months to a year, because you brought that up before, right? The superheroes are too witty. They never fuck up their delivery and the lines. Maybe, just maybe, that's part of being a superhero, that they always have the one-liner ready to go. They always have the perfect thing to say. So you're just gonna have to suck it up. Batman's
or
superpower
I could just go read Dresden Files again.
Yeah. And he has the perfect thing to say too. There's never a moment where Dresden's in the shower and be like, motherfucker, I should have said that line, like
he fucks up plenty, I think, or he makes the jokes about himself.
He fucks up plenty, but he always has like the good one-liners, like,
not
like we could pull the Tolkien quote. We could pull the "I went to school" from Stormfront. Like, even in Stormfront, where he's literally like, I've got 2 sticks to rub together to make fire, and he blew up this broom, and I'm going to use that. He's still got all the quips, like
other people are wittier than him. He's got Molly and Mab doing all sorts of things that, I mean, Mab may not be able to make the pop culture references, but she can be perfectly witty and scary with it. When he makes, half the time when they make pop culture references, I don't even recognize it. So maybe that's half the thing. I just like, it's not a thing. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, like the graveyard scene from Battlegrounds. Like, until I went and rewatched Ghostbusters, and I'm like, holy shit, I should have caught that in the moment. But but that's one of those scenes, for example, where he's not like, hold on a minute, I've got to search my vast catalog of pop culture references.
Part of that is, it's not Dresden being witty. He's not saying the perfect thing. He's literally stealing from someone else who said it better.
Okay.
And
that makes it okay.
It might.
Okay.
It might change it, because it's like, I know the line because I saw it in the movie, and that might be different than I'm the smart one who comes up with a better thing.
You don't like Dresden for, get away from her, you bitch. You like,
I like Ripley for get away from her, you bitch.
Yeah, you do like Dresden for saying that. You don't like Ripley for having said it.
Oh, no, it's very good.
You don't like
Ripley.
when Captain America said the thing, but when
it's
Dresden
not a clever
says it,
thing
it's funny.
for Ripley to have said. It's just a very strong sentiment, but it's not like get your ugly face off her, which is also still a good line, but it's like, I don't know. It wasn't actually a witty thing for Ripley to say. It was just a powerful one.
Sure.
So he thinks he's being witty when he's quoting her, but that's just the quote that I like because I love that movie too.
Right. I mean, it's a great movie. So full of great one-liners that are witty in the moment, you know, like,
But they don't
you know,
all need an applause either. And sometimes it's the pretentiousness of, I said this thing and now you're going to bask in it. But in Aliens is just like someone wake up
I
Hicks.
think you're pulling, yeah. I mean, in hindsight, with all the other stuff, I think you hate Joss Whedon, and that's bubbling up through his works, and it totally makes sense. I mean,
But
I
I didn't know
I've been
anything
reading.
about Joss Whedon. I truly didn't. I knew, okay, so
I'm just
Buffy,
saying
Angel,
it's got to be
Avengers.
subconscious, because to me, like, can you tell me what is different about the Marines' quips in Aliens versus like the quips from the Avengers? Pick a movie. I don't care. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, fuck yeah, let's pull out nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Or, you know, Hudson's entire 3-minute speech on all the different weapons and how they're going to apply them to the enemy. Or, you know, just, you know, the whole thing. Like, you know, you heard aliens and thought illegal aliens and signed
If
up.
I have to put it to a word, the Marines banter in Aliens is dirty. It's
okay.
it's
So you like dirty. Got it.
well, it's not necessarily just like lewd or anything about that, but the banter in Avengers, whatever it is, I wouldn't call it banter because it's just stabbing each other with words and being pretentious about it. Like they're doing it for their own benefit instead of like having an interaction with each other. Like the banter with the Marines, like that is actually their language of how they talk to each other versus I'm insulting you and the audience is going to laugh with me against you. And some of that can be fun, but when it's too much, it can just be the point of it was for Whedon to say that he's clever and have people agree with him.
No, and that's, I mean, that's ultimately what the feeling that I'm getting is like, whether you realize it or not. I think, yeah, I think it's that underlying arrogance, for lack of a better word, that you might be picking up on. And I'm trying to think of an instance where you're wrong about the words are usually at least somewhat detrimental, right? Like in some cases, it's like, you know, a loving kind of ribbing, right? You know, between Captain America and Iron Man a lot, right? But like, you know, Falcon getting on Spider-Man in Civil War, or, you know, just like the Loki scene that you described, like all of those things, those are jabs, right? They're not necessarily like, you know, Tony Stark has a nickname for everybody, but even still, it's, you know, like none of them like their nicknames, you know. So
well, but sometimes it can be endearing, like Justin calling the big gruff Tiny. It's
right.
really obvious. It's kind of not very sophisticated as a name, but it is still kind of a remark of you're huge, so I'm going to make myself feel better by calling you Tiny, and an admission
Right.
of how afraid he is versus what I don't know any of the other nicknames that Tony Stark might have for anyone else. So,
Well, you got, yeah. So hold on. Yeah, it is still the first Avengers movie, but you've got like Point Break for Thor, because he looks like a surfer bro. Sorry, is that another movie you haven't seen?
I have actually
Like,
seen that
okay.
recently
You've
because
got
we started going
Reindeer
down bad
Games for
movies.
Loki, because he's got reindeer horns. You've got I don't know, like Old Man for Captain America. I don't remember if he's got like a different kind of quip. And but they bubble that up like later, right? So like in Thor Ragnarok, you know, it's his key phrase to get into the Quinjet computer. You know, like Thor thinks of himself as the strongest Avenger, even though the Hulk is there. And so Hulk is strongest Avenger. That's his passphrase, but Thor's is Point Break from, you know, Avengers. And that's some of the other fun that I get for that, is like you get rewarded for paying attention to the movies, at least in my opinion, you know. But
and I do like things that reward you for paying attention.
Right.
I did enjoy Thor
That's
Ragnarok. I probably missed those. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Maybe I just missed those jokes as well. But
right.
But the interactions between everyone in Ragnarok was different. No one was being pretentious. No one was putting themselves higher than the other for having said a jab. They were all in a giant mess.
I could argue the point, but go ahead. It's fine.
It was just like
I mean, Topaz was a bitch, but other than that,
who was Topaz? Was that the Valkyrie?
The Grandmaster's, you know,
Oh.
number one chick with the melty stick and all
I don't
that stuff.
remember her.
So yeah, she hated Valkyrie, so that's why I'm saying she was being pretentious the whole time. But
And you
Yeah.
know, being pretentious as a character can be fine. There's a difference between the character being pretentious and the writer being pretentious.
right.
And that must be the thing that I'm targeted in on, and I've never liked about Whedon's stuff. As you say, it's like maybe I didn't know it, but I never really enjoyed Buffy. I enjoyed Angel a lot more because it did the noir thing and it went kind of darker with it. But I don't know. It must be just that, as he's done it for forever. Whoever's saying the joke is always the better one, and then everyone applauds.
Really, yeah. After reading the latest article, I can't remember if it was like Rolling Stones or Vanity Fair or somebody like that. Maybe it was Vogue or something. But anyway, they were talking about his fall from grace and all of the sexual nonsense that has come out, right? Because just about every person from the last 20 years, it feels like, I know that's hugely overstated, but anyway, going through some of that and just how he carried himself on set, plus dealt with in his relationships, like whether you realize it or not, it fits right in with that, right? And so that might be part of what's coming up, or maybe I'm just shoehorning it into that new worldview type of thing. But
I do admit I didn't like him, but I just didn't know much about him. I didn't know of how he had treated the actors. There was one particular thing that in the early years of when Game of Thrones started and it was really taking off and everyone's talking about George R. R. Martin and the whole series, there was something that was constantly being compared between Whedon and Martin of like, how or why do you keep writing all of these strong female characters? I had never been impressed with Whedon's female characters, not much. And there was a chick that's hot and kicks ass and that's it, versus like the difference between Catelyn Stark and Cersei and like the other, like they were so much more. And so when people were saying that Whedon was doing better, it's like, I'm confused, and they would pull to, each one of them had done interviews separately answering that question. And Whedon said, why are you doing all of this? And he had said to that, because you're still asking that question, supposedly. Right. I don't actually remember who he said that to, or even if that's right. But what Martin had said,
commonly attributed anyway. So
yeah. So, I mean, maybe he didn't actually say that. I'll give him the credit if he didn't. But what Martin said is, I always thought of women as people.
Right.
And it's just like, I'm not that much of a crazy feminist in like stories, but it is as simple as that. They're just people, right, with all of the good and bad and the flaws and the strengths. And that's what I saw in Game of Thrones. And so when everyone's tripping over themselves with Whedon, it's just like, I don't see it. But he gets held up on an altar, or at least he was.
Yeah. For some reason, he definitely has like a cult of personality that follows him, where it's like, the super fans get to the point where he can't do any wrong. And for me, like the beginning of the end really started around Age of Ultron, where it's like, look, I still like his works and that sort of thing, but he's definitely, like, I've seen some of his tweets and comments and things like that, where it's like, those were unforgivable. And that was even before, all the other information came to light. And that just, kept piling it on to the point where it's like, now we've got to like try to separate the work from the author, right? Because I'm not going to suddenly start hating some of the shit that I've been liking for the last 20 years in the case of Buffy or whatever because of these accusations. But it sucks that he's a dirtbag, right? So now I'm just like trying to separate his stuff out of there. But yeah, like, and I don't know, like all of that stuff to me is kind of silly anyway, because yes, you should strive to write normal, strong-ish female characters. Like, she doesn't have to be strong. It's okay if she's not, but she doesn't need to be damsel in distress tropey either.
Right. So strength as a character doesn't necessarily mean the ability to lift a car or hit really hard.
Right.
And so when people talk, this is such a common thing that you can see people just like go round and round and round in circles about like, I want a strong woman character, basically. And if they mean that they want a woman who hits really hard, they want Murphy, fine. But Mab doesn't need to do that to be scary. Even, I mean, yes, she has crazy amount of supernatural power anyway, but Mab is scary in her demeanor.
Right.
Cersei is scary in her demeanor, or any of the other women out of Game of Thrones that use sometimes their femininity to manipulate and get power that way. She never gets into a physical fight, but she can still be a strong character with all of her flaws, and also she's a moron, but when people just kind of put everything down to strength of how hard can they hit, how much can they lift, and they're completely ignoring all of the rest of the strength of a character. It's an unfortunate thing that the word is what people end up going into, a strong female character, and not complex characters.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, complex, not like tropey. I mean, we're talking about the whole damsel in distress thing one way or another, right? Whether she's tied up to a post in front of a dragon's lair, or, of all the businesses in all the world and all the places you had to walk in a mine, noir tropes and that sort of thing, right? Like, for your sake, I imagine, the fact that many of those characters have, they're, weak and floofy because of their, damage and things like that, then that can help salvage the characters in some ways. But, just having strong characters. But it's like, I'm trying to think of like other examples, and like some of them Marvel, like we're rewatching Agent Carter, right? So she would be considered a strong female character without, necessarily all of the bad tropes. But then you get into like her backstory, and it's like she's a strong female character because she was the only girl in a family of boys. And so you get stuff like that too, where it's like, well, she's just one of the guys, she's one. Well, why can't she just be a girl and still be a badass?
I didn't have any siblings growing up, and I'm still one of the guys.
Yeah.
I was raised almost entirely by my mom, and I'm still one of the guys. I don't know, it's dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say that to mean either that a woman can't be a good character if she did have a lot of brothers, but that's like, you can't just take that attribute and then expand it into the entire mark of a personality.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'd be the same kind of boring on the flip side, right? Like, we're getting to the point where it's like, your character needs to be defined by more than their physique or more than their, standard cookie cutter kind of background, right? Like, you can't have Hercules or He-Man or whatever show up shirtless and just be like, man, I'm a hero. And that's all you need to know is how big my pecs are. All the thews, just rippling off of me. And, just like, look, guys, like, it's not cool when we do it for guys any more than it's cool that, She-Ra and She-Hulk and, whoever show up and whatever. And so, like, we want our characters to be defined by more than their physicality or, their simple background of like, well, I grew up on a farm with all boys and I can carry 500 pounds of hay on each shoulder. So that's why I'm the female or male or whatever protagonist and whatever. And we want the more complicated characters and give us moral reasoning to chew into and stuff. And I mean, having a conversation with, one of my buddies where it's like, one of the things that makes a good villain, just to give another point of contrast and that sort of thing, is that you agree with them, but you disagree with their methods as much as anything. Okay, well, so we were talking about Legend of Korra villains, for example. So I'm going way off track here, but I do know things other than Marvel. Shocker. But the first villain basically is a guy who's talking about, normal people being oppressed by people with bending powers, right? He's standing up for muggles, so to speak, right? Well, yeah, absolutely. I think most of us can get down with equality is good. Great. We're in with that. Okay, we should rein in the power. Great. We should do that. We should get more representation. Yeah, we should do that. We should murder them. Wait, hold on a second. Or we should take away their bending, or, like, at some point it becomes an aggressive overreaction, right? There's so many examples you could pull from where it's like, okay, I agree with you up to here. Then the murdering started, and that was definitely across the line, so, but, similar, like, just characters in general, right? Like, there's room for Superman, like, you can still get into Superman, but the stuff that makes him compelling is not the fact that he's can jump over a building with a single bound, or he's mistaken as a plane sometimes, or he can shoot lasers out of his fucking eyes like a shark. The parts that make him compelling are where his morality gets called into question, and certainly, like, being a nuclear weapon loose inside of a major city, that is a problem, right? So like having that addressed would have been a really cool way of approaching Man of Steel and things like that. And that's where I bring that sort of thing up, is because I find that more, more compelling than the fact that he can just flick you into literally next week, because he's strong and all of that nonsense. But,
I haven't seen any of the recent Superman movies. I just have to tell you that. None of them.
Like, hold on. So
none.
Let's go
None of Cable. None of them.
Like 2013?
Nothing. None.
Like, what were you?
I would have been. That's the year I would have turned 20.
20?
So
yeah. So
no. Mm-mm. I managed to miss.
And you haven't seen any of the DC movies in general, then?
The Nolan ones.
Yeah, but I mean that was before this, like just before, I think. But
yeah, I am excited for the new Batman movie though, because that one looks fucked up.
Yeah, Dark Knight was in 2008, but yeah, Rises was 2012, so it was literally the year before. I
did see Rises.
Why are you here? No, I'm just kidding. So, like, I know we started with the Dresden Files, and then somebody got the bright idea we should talk about other random bullshit, but like, so.
Because sometimes when we're not recording, we talk about hose water, and we decided to record it.
Okay, so you're Hoser. That's going to be your name.
Oh, don't you dare.
We can get that to stick. So, Director Hoser. But yeah, anyway. Well, and it's funny too, because it's like, for me, some of this stuff is like nostalgia, childhood stuff, right? Like I grew up on the 90s cartoons for X-Men and Batman, were like huge chunks of it. And then I think we talked about some last week where it was like, if you're interested in getting into the DC universe stuff, I think it's much more better to go into like the DC Legends and like the Justice League and Justice League Legends were much better.
We were talking about that.
Places to jump in. Like I don't mind the movies, and certainly I feel like the casting is pretty spot on, but the writing doesn't always live up to it. Like
you haven't find a better Superman than Henry Cavill. Cavill, whatever you say.
I mean that hurts, but okay.
In terms of how he
like
looks,
Henry Cavill, but sure, yeah. I'm just saying, like, crap.
He looks exactly like him, and Christopher Reeve.
Why can't I remember his name? Brandon Routh. You didn't see that one, so Superman Returns. Is that what it was? Or anyway. So they recast him as the Atom, which I felt like was a little bit of a step down, but he started doing the CW shows. So he was in the League of I don't remember. It's been way too long since I watched those shows. That was one of those where I was like, I got into it and it was pretty good, and then it started to like jump the shark, in my opinion, and I probably held on way too long. And they did some of the interesting stuff again, but yeah, he's the vegan boyfriend from Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh,
so like to give you a face, because
I have seen that. I don't actually remember if I can't remember his face, but the vegan whole little bit of that movie was hilarious.
Right. So another movie that is funny and quippy and stuff. Just saying. But anyway, I thought he was a pretty good Superman, and when I like found out that he was, I was like, wait a minute, because like they didn't doll him up so much, but anyway. So the casting spot on for the new DC stuff. You haven't seen Wonder Woman then?
No.
Like any of that? No. Okay.
Was not interested, and then it looked like a giant dumpster fire, so I was just like,
As bad as it is for some parts, I still think it's one of the better ones. So like, and we're talking post Nolan, right? So there's this narrowish window of the last 9 years where it's like, all of Zack Snyder's, or anyway, Snyder's
Zach.
Stuff, Zach, thank you. I was like, that's not right.
Very
My
close,
brain
though.
apparently this morning. So,
yeah.
But
the Superman versus Batman thing I knew it wasn't going to execute as much as it was reaching for just by the concept alone. Wonder Woman was never interesting to me ever. And I remember seeing the trailer of whatever Aquaman something or other. It's just like, none of it landing. None of it had But
Aquaman literally didn't land, but okay.
Okay, whatever.
Because he's under the sea. No. Okay.
Good enough. Are you going to start singing it? But whatever.
Do.
The new Batman that's about to come out. That one seems right up my alley. So
yeah, because emo
it's
and
dark and fucked up and noir. It is just like
whatever.
Perfect.
I'm gonna give it a chance. It's like there's a lot of IPs, right, where it's just like, this looks like crap, but I'm gonna go see it anyway. Like, I was not excited to see the final Star Wars sequel movie at any point, but I'm gonna go see it. It's gonna be the same thing with this Batman. Like, there's very few things that I would pull out of it other than the fact that he's Batman that I'm like excited to go see. But all of the other Hollywood types, they're like, no, really, like we're super excited to see this. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll find out. But oh, don't drag me into politics. I've purposely been sending my trajectory out this direction. So that's a different podcast that has been years in the making, and I still don't have a good title for, and everything.
But I had something to respond to, and now I've forgotten anyway. Oh, the trailer for the new Batman looked perfect, though. Looked really great. I don't know. I mean, like it's just the people in it anyway. Like Colin Farrell doing the Penguin.
Right. And I'm excited to see that because he's really been trying to brush up his like character acting chops, right? Because
and you can't even.
I think a lot of his early, I think a lot of his early roles were just beefcake, action hero types of stuff, depending on the movie, right? Like I'm not saying that was everything, but mostly what I've seen him in, right? When I go back and look at it, but then you had him in the Harry Potter Magical Beasts and Where to Find Them and whatever. And it was like, holy shit, he's like good in this, like really good.
Huh. I thought those movies were trash. I mean, I've not seen them, but I heard that they had so many problems.
You're a Harry Potter fan, aren't you? Like, what do you watch? What did you watch this last week? Like,
I've been watching Outlander and reading the Outlander books.
Okay.
So
I haven't, but
it's very, very different.
Wait, hold on. Isn't Outlander, is that the one where she like travels back in time? It's one of those. The wife, too. So I'm adjacent to some of that stuff, and some of that sounds fun, but like, if I want a story like that, I'll go like read and watch Timeline, as bad as it is sometimes, Michael Crichton. But like,
I remember seeing that
the romantic bends and stuff like that, I'm just like, that's all fluff to me, right? So
the characters are very well done, even with all of the romance and sex.
Right, that's good. So sorry, just trying to catch up on comments, but
because we do actually
people on a Farscape tangent.
Hey, so Farscape is great.
Now let's fight, because like, did you watch it when it was actually on? Or...
Yeah, when I was a kid. Okay. That was like I don't remember. It was like we watched X-Files and Farscape and Invisible Man, I think, all on the same night. My mom and I, like every week for a couple of years.
One? What Farscape
X-Files?
and Invisible? Sure.
I just remember it because they're all on Sci-Fi, and so we're all just watching it like in the same timeline.
Right. Yeah. So again, the wife watched it, and I got into it, and I really like Claudia Black as an actress, and like a lot of her stuff in it. Yeah, she's great. Talk about a strong female character, right?
Loved her.
Enter Claudia Black. But Farscape is way too like old wonky sci-fi for me, and like it's a similar kind of flavor as Firefly in some ways, but I have not gotten to the part where I've been hooked yet, and we haven't watched like a ton of episodes, but all I hear is how like, oh my God, Farscape is so good, everybody should watch it, and it's like the best sci-fi ever. And then I go watch it, and I'm like, I've been led on by somebody who obviously got captivated.
I remember really loving it when I was a kid, and I've been recently getting my husband through it. And so we're starting from like the beginning, and we're like not quite halfway through the first season. And when we start watching like the first episode or two, it's like, if I ever said it was good, I didn't mean it. When I said it was fun. And certainly they do have to like kind of
It'll
hit their
get
stride. But
okay.
and
Yeah.
there are times of like that dialogue was so bad, but especially Claudia Black just like
Mhm.
performs it so enjoyably. And I don't know. I remember really enjoying it. Maybe it's because I was 7, but
Like, no offense to everybody else on the show, but she's one of the only ones that can act. You know, like everybody else is the kind of like over the top, you know, like sci-fi acting that you'd expect.
yeah,
Like
like
I
what he
can't
says about
remember.
Crichton is that he's appropriate, but he's boring. He's
Right,
fine,
right,
but he's not much.
right,
And
right.
obviously,
Yeah,
like
he's for being like a fighter pilot in a NASA test pilot, he is just a dude who is, you know, on the wrong side of the universe, you
and
know,
makes the
or
pop
whatever.
culture
So
references that no one gets. It's like that is
right,
his role. But
right.
like Rigel being generally disgusting was always fun, and Dargo being the better version of Worf, in my opinion. Um, they're like they have their
Now we're
roles.
gonna
They're able to
fight.
be. We have.
Yeah, we found. Sorry, all 5 Farscape fans have shown up in force now. I'm just kidding. So,
Oh my god, we found the
yeah,
part where everyone gets hurt.
yep. I
Yeah.
just, I mean, for me, I think as much as anything, like, so I'm kind of vain when it comes to like video games and science fiction. It's really hard for me to go back and contextualize it and be like, man, in the 90s or the early 2000s, this shit was fire, right? Because that's what we had at the time, right? If I didn't grow up with it in the same way, like I'll die on the hill for, you know, Star Trek the original series all day. I see the flaws, I see all of that stuff,
You see the
right?
strings
But
on the thing as it's going away.
yeah, right. But I'm not. Well, you got to watch the HD version because I'm vain because like the graphics and stuff. But you know, oh, you guys like
Yeah, and Claudia Black
Cody.
is brilliant in
You
everything, including the Dresden Files TV show.
was she in that?
She was in
You're
it. She
gonna
was in
hurt my
the episode with
feelings.
the hockey stick.
Well, that really doesn't narrow it down, does
Oh,
it?
come on.
Like,
She was I think it was called The Other Dick because it was the one about the investigative stuff. He had to get a certification to be detective.
okay. See, and now you're making me remember shit that's been sequestered away on purpose. But yeah,
Hey,
I mean,
the
she
Dresden
annoys the
Files
shit
TV
out of
show
me in
does need to have a
Destiny.
place in your
So
brain.
no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Man, she's done a lot of game voice acting. That's cool.
Yeah, she was Morgan in Dragon Age, which was great. She like had some thing I don't remember in Mass Effect and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. I don't remember her in Stargate either, but she had like 29 episodes in Stargate. So,
Yeah, I didn't.
see, there's some sci-fi. Go.
I've never
Yeah.
watched the Stargate show. The movie was great from way back when. I love that, but
I'm gonna warn you right now. The main character's kind of quippy, so you know. But
haha.
no, I know she was. I know she was in Pitch Black. That's like Pitch Black was one of my first favorite like non-Star Wars, Star Trek like sci-fi movies, right?
And
Like
we
there are
already
good
declared it a
ones, but
perfect movie.
well, yeah, it's like when you talk about like, okay, I need to see science fiction. Okay, well, how do you feel about Star Trek or Star Wars? No. Okay, well then, boy, do I have a different movie for you, right? Like, but
Yeah,
she doesn't die immediately. Cody, we're gonna fight. I swear.
yeah. It's not
I
immediately.
swear
She's
to
like halfway
science.
through.
Yeah.
But
Really, halfway? Did you have to use that to describe? So
what?
yeah, she was halfway through. You know what I mean. I'm gonna just cry for a minute. Yeah, no, I mean it was a tragic way for her character to go out because she died stupidly, right? But
Yeah,
sort of heroically, I guess. But you know, yeah. So
yeah. I'm kind of realizing that a lot of characters I might have liked it's just because I imprinted on Aaron from Farscape from her.
okay, Cody, like first of all, they blasted a guy early, right? So he dies first, and then Zeke dies first, and that's how quickly and unimportantly Zeke dies. But you know, whatever. So
Yeah, that would be Zeke, Cody. Zeke got dragged into a hole.
Yeah.
Go
he's
watch the movie
sketchy.
again.
He's good.
Because it's
He's
fun.
good.
Because that's a great movie. I love that movie.
Yeah. Yes.
I still remember like watching it for the first time, eating pizza rolls, and just having my mind blown.
Right. I think that might even be one that I got to after the. Yeah, that's why we're here. So yeah. Anyway,
What are you talking about?
Aragon didn't have a movie, so
I did remember watching that, and it was confusingly like just fell apart. And I never really
yeah.
liked the books. Me being a heavy reader, even when I was a kid, everyone was like, "You should read Aragon. It's my favorite book ever." When they were kids, it's like I'm reading adult fiction at this point, and I finally just read the book to understand what they're talking about. And I don't even think I finished it. I got up to like the last battle or something, and just like I'm bored. I don't care.
Yeah, I do remember the Aragon movie being, somewhat bad, and I was gonna make the joke a bit about, like, wasn't that the one with Jeremy Irons in it? And
Yeah.
the joke about that is, what was he? Because I'm thinking the D&D movie, and that's what's funny about it. It's like, so because Jeremy Irons like chewed up the D&D movie, but that's what I remember about Aragon. It's like, that's the one where they ride dragons. That's what I can tell you about that movie. Like, and the bad guy killed all the good dragons or something. But
yeah, something like that. But I remember even seeing like a trailer of like Jeremy Irons is going to be in that travesty, right, and being very confused.
Oh man, 2006 wasn't even that long ago, but you wouldn't know it by my memory of this movie. He was in that. Yeah, that's funny. John Malkovich. I should go rewatch this movie just because of the cast.
Malkovich was in it?
Like, yeah.
Oh my God.
Jimon Hunsu, or however you pronounce that. He's great and everything. Rachel Weisz. What are we doing? Why is this movie so bad?
What happened? What happened to that movie? How did so many people get in it?
Right.
Oh my God. It's horrifying.
Well, that's kind of like, I think what almost even preluded the whole like perfect movie thing is we started doing some of the opposite of that before, which was, how does this have all of the ingredients for success and still come out like shit? And apparently Aragon is
case in point.
Like that,
But I mean, how expensive are good writers? I mean, the book was already written, and not that I didn't like the book, but right. Like, is there something strange about adaptations of like, what do you change what's been done, or do you stick to it? And there's various decisions you have to make with that.
We're making a movie based off of a book. Maybe we should give the fans what they want, and we know we'll at least get that many people to watch the movie. Like,
yeah,
that's the part that I don't understand.
It's an interesting conversation when it comes to sci-fi fantasy, because the books can describe things in words that you may not be able to pull off even with CGI, or it's you can pull it off, but it'd be really, really expensive. Maybe like Wheel of Time, which I haven't watched yet, but I've seen questionable things about it. How are they going to do all these grand magic things when the budget is not much? Granted, they don't seem to spend the budget on the actors either. So what did they spend the gigantic budget on? I don't know yet.
Right. Cody, I'll die on that hill with you. That's fine. We'll take everybody together. So Reign of Fire.
Reign of Fire was decent. I do remember that movie. That was good.
Like, as far as dragon movies go, maybe that's a topic we should do. We're gonna rate all the dragon movies. Like, so up here we've got like the first Dragonheart, and we got Reign of Fire, and then it just gets less good. But
Yes, we have to watch the dragon movies, and then we make a tier list on it, because apparently that is where the money and the attention is.
Yes. Is that fine? Fine. I can't fight it anymore. The people have spoken. I've
spoken a lot.
Yeah.
But we have to have
because
a list of the dragon movies.
If you don't like this, for the love of God, tell us, because that's what we're going on. Is the only feedback we're getting is please do more tier lists. So that's happening.
Yeah. To the point that I was even like sharing the comments with my husband of like, last time I posted something to Reddit, I got 1 comment. This time I have 3. I'm not kidding.
We've got 3 times the feedback.
I mean, it's not like we get much, but like, holy shit. The increase on Reddit is just insane. Or not Reddit, YouTube. I mean, it's just like every time I get an update, it's crazy.
I haven't been told that I'm this wrong since the feminism episode came out. So, it's been great. So, yeah, we like you too. Thank you, random citizen. Sorry, as far as getting, yeah. Okay, well, at least we've got more topics now. See, we came to this with no topics, and we not only came up with this topic, whatever this is, that we've also got the Dragon movies one, which will be fun. I mean, most of those I can watch with the kids. Probably not Reign of Fire. That one I remember being a little gritty, but
Well, my mother
so.
watched it with me when I was a
Well,
child.
yeah, but we already know. Yeah, look,
I had
no
already seen
offense, but we're
Aliens
trying to be
dozens of
better
times
parents
over.
than your parents were. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I like we. Sorry, that was low and wrong and inappropriate, but yeah, like we've definitely watched a couple of things that we thought were safe, and then we were like, oh god, we're turning this off. Did they just see that happen? So, but yeah. Especially sliding from like Agents of Shield, which had questionable moments, but was mostly okay to the point where it's like they even invented a gun that didn't kill people, right? But then sliding into like Agent Carter, which is a lot more pushing the limits in some episodes, So, but yeah, so we'll go that much while the kids are awake. But like Witcher and Reign of Fire and things like that has to wait until they're in bed.
I haven't watched
So.
Witcher yet because I've been kind of afraid of them ruining this thing that I liked, which was admittedly the video games and not the books. I haven't read the books yet.
It's got Superman in it.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I have seen him as people, but I've never actually seen his shit. I've never watched anything that he's acted in. He's just around.
Like Henry Cavill.
Yeah. I've never watched Superman. I remember was the movie people talk about Man from U.N.C.L.E. Never seen it, or Witcher. He's just been around.
What about Stardust?
No. Somehow I've never actually seen him act.
Shut up. Shut up. Okay, so first of all, I'm Stardust is a troll because he's in that for like 20 minutes, but he's in it and you won't recognize him when you see him probably because I didn't. But that was before like I started associating all of his roles and stuff. But regardless, that's your homework tonight. Go watch Stardust. I don't care. Go watch Stardust. So it's Gaiman, isn't it? So go watch Stardust.
I never really
and it's
but Gaiman is fine, I guess. But I tried to read American Gods, and when I realized that the character's name was Shadow Moon, I could not get past that. I sat the book down and I never went back to it. I've also never seen that show.
Yeah, Charlie Cox, Claire Danes, Ian McKellen narrates it. Let's see who else in here you might recognize. I mean, Henry Cavill, but he's such a minor character that it's funny to see him because Charlie Cox did this and Daredevil. That's what people know him from. But go watch it. And if you don't like it, we really are going to fight. That's what we can fight about next time. So,
are you going to nominate it as a perfect movie if we ever get back to that?
Because it's based off of a book, I'd like to read the book before I just gave it the stamp. But in a bubble, yes, I'll do it. I'll put my life on the line on that one. So or my internet persona or whatever. So, but it's really good, and I don't know why it didn't come up earlier. As far as perfect movies and that sort of thing. I'd really like to hear Ben's shit take on that one, but
Is this a children's story? What is? I don't know anything about it other than the people who've now told me.
Well, it's a fairy tale, so you could be forgiven for understanding it as a children's story. But I would say no. I would definitely what's it even rated?
Probably PG-13.
It is PG-13, so
it's just the
I would definitely say older kids fine, but it's not necessarily a bedtime story. There's betrayal and murder, and you get to see people's dead faces and shit, and some of the climactic stuff at the end is pretty gruesome. I think so. To clarify, I think my kids have seen it, but it's one of those where we still kind of keep an eye on some of the parts and. Remind them hey, this is, fiction, and these guys are wearing pretty cool makeup and costumes, right? That sort of thing. So, but yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's funny too, because I listed all the other cast, and hold on, so Mark Strong, Septimus, pretty good. What's the my brain is worthless today apparently. So Robert De Niro. That's the name. I couldn't. Yeah, I was like, there's too many names jammed into that one space. So Robert De Niro's character is fantastic, and you're gonna love him. And now that I've said that, you're gonna figure out some way to hate this movie, but watch it. Like, so you liked the Codex Alera stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, totally irrelevant, but you'll like Stardust.
So it has something to do with Furies and maybe a magic school.
No, that's why you'll understand the comment when you watch the movie. But
oh wait, no, someone else said Hero's Journey, so it's going to start with a boy on a farm.
Ish. I think he's a boy in a shop, technically. So
okay,
yeah. Yep. Right. Michelle Pfeiffer's the villain, right? So I'm telling you, like, whatever you thought you had today, whether it's an emergency birthday party or anything, like, I might go put it on. Like, yes, go watch it. The more I think about it, the more that just the fact that you haven't seen it cannot stand. That's all. So
there's a lot of things that I haven't seen. Why is this the thing bugging you right now? You're not telling me to go watch Marvel.
Well, yeah, because I know you, okay? I want you to watch Marvel because it's something I enjoy. And I want you to watch Stardust because it's something you're going to enjoy, or else. No, I mean, but because, yeah, I mean, you know, it's definitely in that kind of fantasy, like, you know, Dresden-y type of thing, but it's Gaiman, right? This is one of his fairy tales. This isn't American Gods, right? Like, where, like, certainly the mythology parts and that sort of thing, but this is more one of his more whimsical, you know, stories and that sort of thing. So, but yeah. See, Cody's got the right idea, but Stardust was pretty okay. We give it a pretty okay rating out of So
the way I feel about Arcane, and people seem to be losing their shit over it. But
see, and I've heard it, but because I don't really do League of Legends, I haven't gotten into it, but I keep being told by people who don't have a background that it's still good. You know,
it is. So, like, I do not play League of Legends whatsoever. I know nothing about it. I knew none of the characters. You do not need to know anything about the game to be able to get it. They didn't depend on they made it in order to get more audience. They did not make it for the internal audience.
Sure.
It seems like they did well to all of it, but it was just fine. It was okay. It was enjoyable, and it was well made. But people, I think, are so desperate for something good that they're slobbering all over it when it was fine. They did. People were way too enamored of it, and maybe it was just hype. But I think it's just like that's how bad and desperate, especially in any form of the sci-fi fiction, fantasy, anything in that realm, things got so compensatory. I'm going to enjoy it just because, to the point that they're just like, well, Silco was a great villain, therefore it was wonderful.
I mean, villains can make or break a thing,
and he was a great villain. He was well written. The characters well written. It was well done. It was like the amount of money and time that they put into it paid off. But it just didn't blow me away the way it did everyone else. I enjoyed it, but I feel like I am missing something that everyone else was getting out of it that I didn't.
Yeah, but you don't like Marvel movies, so just take that with a grain of salt, you know. So.
Apparently, no, we decided I don't like Whedon, and he left too much of a mark on Marvel. I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Because I really, really did like Thor Ragnarok. I just don't remember, apparently.
We like Taika Waititi, but next time we got to dig into whether or not we like the Russo brothers, which have a similar kind of humor, in my opinion. But, you know.
They were heavily involved in Community. I love Community. Except for, I don't think they were involved in season 4, which sucked. So it's I think I already do like the Russo brothers.
Right.
Mostly. But it could still be that, like, as you're saying, superheroes might just not be the characters for me because I want the damaged, broken noir detective. Mm-hmm. Or damaged, broken people in general.
Which, yeah, unfortunately, that's not a genre that gets nearly enough attention, you know, but maybe it's because we're nerds, maybe because whatever. But yeah, like, I mean, and certainly in today's climate, like we've discussed numerous times, like there are tropes and themes that I think at least heavily influence, if not like belong to that genre, that are somewhat problematic in a Me Too, you know, feminism type of thing, right? Because it's like you got to have your damsel in distress, you got to have whatever. You can
do it right.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you, right? Like you could definitely have I mean, this my brain is ping ponged around everywhere right now, which is a huge surprise. But like I think Bioshock did it okay. Where this Bioshock Infinite, to clarify, it's like it's very much a detective noir type of thing, at least to start with. The girl is clearly the damsel in distress, but then also very clearly isn't by the end of it, right? So you could do something like that, probably would be okay. But shit, like, what's the last one you can think of in that genre? Because I know this can't be the right answer, but like Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow is like what comes to mind that's like even
Oh,
close,
of
like
the are you talking about
like
the
noir
aesthetic noir? Oh,
stuff. Yeah.
well, there's a bunch
I
of
mean, and
noir and neo noir and all things like that. I mean, so Blade Runner gets held up a lot as a neo
yeah,
noir, but
yeah,
it depends if you're looking for the aesthetic, like the shared aesthetic between Bioshock Infinite and Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. If I can talk, um, it that is a thing that I don't see often enough, and I'd really like more of. Just like but I love things that just go really heavy into whatever aesthetic they go anyway. Like take the
right,
thing, turn it up to 11, and I'll enjoy that if just for the ballsiness of it.
right. I'm trying to see if I can get out of the 1950s for a movie. Ben would be all over this right now. He could tell you all about whatever these movies are. So, Shadow of a Doubt, man, that looks familiar for some reason. So,
Are you thinking of Hitchcock, Loco Wolf?
no, I'm just like IMDb
No,
film noir, like
I'm responding to the chat because someone
gotcha.
told me to watch Hitch. And it was like, I don't think that's the movie you're looking for. But I do agree. Kevin Costner's Robin Hood was saved by Alan Rickman. He was the best.
Oh yeah,
Like, that was the reason
because
to
it'll
watch that movie.
Twit. Yeah.
It's dumb.
What system of mythology has your favorite apocalypse? Like, holy edge question, Batman, but that's a fun topic. So the chat apparently took a left when I wasn't looking, and now I'm behind.
We were arguing about Arcane, and then they just kind of went with it.
Right.
I mean, in terms of apocalypse, I do really like Ragnarok. Norse everything.
Yeah. And then the world was eaten. So first Odin was eaten, and then Thor was eaten, and then the world was eaten, and everybody had a bad time. But then
even more convoluted than that. First, Odin sacrificed himself on a tree to hang for 9 days and 9 nights, and then he had this like, oh, something's going to happen. He's going to resurrect a series of like what's going to happen at the end of the world because he wants to survive and he wants to save his son, and then it's not going to work, and then everyone dies exactly as she says, and then a couple of people survive.
Right. Yeah, let's not get into the actual convoluted and weirdness of Norse mythology, because somewhere after Odin hung himself from a tree, then Loki fucked a horse, and that was all downhill from there. So
yeah, not even sure whether that happened before or after, but Loki got pregnant and then we got Sleipnir.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's just one of several times that happened.
Well, that's the only time that Loki was pregnant, because then there were other times when he had a children with Angerboda, which was a giant, and that's where we get Fenrir and Jormungandr and the other one. Who's the other one? There's another one.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to get into it, because I'm not going to pronounce half of those names, and I can only remember like 3 of them anyway. But yeah, so I might not have seen as many. Go ahead.
You can only remember the 3 Norse names that were in the Marvel movies.
That's not 100% accurate. I knew who Jormungandr was before that. I think Sleipnir I was introduced to, or at least reintroduced to, but and I knew who Fenris was before, or Fenrir, but really,
what are you looking for again? More neo-noir?
Yeah. So like Memento makes the cut, which still isn't since, but yeah. So I think I haven't seen as many of these movies as I because I haven't seen Brick, but I've been told to watch Brick, possibly by
Brick
you
was
guys.
good. I will give it that. I had a lot of hesitations that it was high schoolers, but that was kind of incidental to the rest of it. Brick was good, and it was like it had a lot of the feel of old gangstery mechanisms, but just set with high schoolers. So it was like weird contradictory. But
Right.
they talked in code sometimes that seemed very much of an older gangster type. Brick was good.
Trying to figure out if I don't understand noir or these guys don't, because No Country for Old Men as noir.
Um, hmm.
Is it
Um,
just the fact that it's in the country that I can't wrap my head around it?
Possibly. There is something I can kind of see a thread with Sugar as being like, what is he and why is he and what do they do about it? And kind of the
Mhm.
depressing nature of it, of like the way that like in Chinatown, like he walked away and everything was bad. That still happens in No Country for Old Men. So I can kind of see it, even though I usually think of noir as having to be integral to a city
Right.
or at least a region, which I guess they could go as far as Texas, but the entirety of
Well,
it.
yeah, because Chinatown, I mean, I guess kind of, but LA was like a fledgling city in that story, right? So,
But it was still like
but
the huge thing of that's why it was so important with the water and the land and the incorporation of it.
right. Hmm. Yeah, and Memento and Seven hit two of these lists, and it's like I guess I kind of can pick up on that in Seven a little
Absolutely.
bit,
No,
but
seven
yeah,
matches with a lot of extra stuff in it.
right. Well, that's
Eh,
fun. So, all right. Well, let's see. Okay, so we got tier list for our favorite apocalypses. No, mythological apocalypses. Is that what we're going to narrow that down
Well,
to?
honestly, I don't know many
And
other
dragon
mythological.
movies.
Okay, we have to have a list of dragon
So
movies, and then we all watch them and tier them and argue.
yeah, right.
So,
So I mean, the fun thing about mythological apocalypses is because like Norse is one of the more colorful ones. Then I think the in Hindu culture it mostly revolves around potentially nuclear weapons, maybe, and then most of the rest of them is just like variations of flood. So it just kind of
well,
depends. But
there was a lot of,
you know,
and honestly, I don't know of many others. I can't bring to mind at the moment. I had forgotten even about Hindu just because I was still thinking about Norse stuff. But I've been thinking about Norse stuff for weeks,
right.
months,
Anything you want to
years.
share with the class?
I got really into the Scott stuff when watching Outlander, and that's what got me to start learning Gaelic. And then I'm really part of the reason that I really liked it is because the interaction between Norse and Scott stuff. It's like just
Mhm.
another expansion of the thing I already loved. So
Mhm.
I've just kind of been like, I have hundreds of tabs of Wikipedia open of all of that shit, hundreds. So just, that's what I've been doing for the last couple months.
Nice.
Is Nightmare Alley out yet? Because I actually have been wanting to watch that. Because he says this, and that did look right up
Mhm.
my alley. When I saw the trailer, it's like I'm watching this whenever I can.
2021. So yeah, it must be.
Oh, I thought it was 2022. I thought it was sometime this spring, but oh, maybe I should try to find it.
It looks like it's still in theaters, at least in my area. So,
Hmm. I don't like
but
theaters.
IMDb says 2021. So,
Okay, I don't want to leave my couch.
yeah,
Right. So,
that's a cast. Holy crap! Well, it's got Ron Perlman in it, so it's pretty much like must watch now. He's like
yeah.
8th in the list past Willem Dafoe and Bradley Cooper and all this other
Hmm.
stuff. No, but it's got Ron Perlman, even if he's in it for 5 minutes. So, fucking Pacific Rim. So, but
Oh
anyway,
yeah. Wait.
yeah.
Yeah. That was hard to remember. It's been a long time since I saw that movie. That was a
it.
perfectly good movie for exactly what it
I
needed to
wish
be.
I mean, Giant Robot did punch Big Monster, right? So that's pretty good. But for as much time as he spent with the world building, I guess I wanted a little bit more out of it. So, but like it was just okay, right? To borrow your thing, like I understand why people loved it. There were parts of it that I absolutely loved, including the
Charlie
whole like.
Day.
So one time we tried to nuke one, and that was generally bad. So we just made a robot that is like a nuke, and that's a little bit better. But
Yeah, but also Charlie going crazy.
yeah,
All right. I guess we cut
we
it
did it.
off.
We made it.
Yeah, we did.
This is
Plus,
the meaning to life, the universe, and everything. Episode 42. So
that's what happens when everyone else leaves and we have no topic. Emergency.
Yeah, we interact with the chat. It was terrible. You guys are great. I love you. Even if you hate me, it's fine. Bye.